Andy Reisinger, you are Senior Research Fellow at the Climate Change Research Institute at Victoria University, and you spoke tonight at the Ramsey House Human FM Climate Change seminar. Fairly lively meeting, and at one point one of the presenters from Federated Farmers effectively denied that climate change was anthropogenic. What would you say to that?
It's quite a sad state of affairs, really, because it really means that we're missing out on the opportunities to actually make a difference in responding to climate change. I mean, we've dealt with climate change scientifically, whether the Earth is warming, who or what is behind it, quite extensively now over the last 20, 30 years. And the evidence, A, that the world is warming, and B, that humans are mostly responsible for most of the warming over the last 50 years is just so overwhelming now, both in basic physical principles, observations, model understanding, but also detailed tests, and it's just such a comprehensive, compelling picture that you really have to have your head in the sand to believe that it's somehow natural variations.
Don Nicholson from Federated Farmers spoke of climate variation. You'd see that then as a misnomer.
Well, I mean, climate variation, climate change is the established term. I don't see any reason why one shouldn't use the term climate change, but it's of course up to Don to use climate variation if he prefers. But if it's meant to imply that it doesn't believe that the climate will keep changing as greenhouse gas emissions continue to increase, then I have a very strong scientific disagreement with him.
You finished by saying we're facing a global train wreck and have to act. What do we need to do?
Well, unfortunately, we have to do both. We can't avoid further warming altogether because there's already too much by way of greenhouse gas concentrations in the atmosphere. So we are already committed to some further warming in the order of another 2 degrees, even if we reduce our emissions very rapidly globally. So we have to do that, rapid global emission reductions, to keep climate change manageable. But managing climate change also means adapting to those changes that we can't avoid. So climate change is both about avoiding the unmanageable, which means reducing emissions as fast as we can globally with a concerted effort, but also managing the unavoidable, which is the climate change that we are too late to avoid by now.
You think this is doable, not just pie in the sky wishing?
Well, it's doable from a technological side. We do have technologies already in place that could actually at least hold the global growth in emissions that's otherwise projected to occur over the next 30 odd years. We do have the technologies in place now. What it needs is a commitment, a realization by countries, governments, political leaders, but also individuals and organizations around the world that this is necessary and doable. We have large assessments, for example, by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change that I used to work for, so conflict of interest declaration here. We do have assessments that tell us in each sector how we can reduce emissions. We can't reduce them to zero in many sectors yet, and that's a question of having to put more effort into research and technology and technological development over the next several decades to get to zero emissions, but we can make emission reductions everywhere. And the problem is, if we don't do anything now, we keep adding to the stock of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. So every year of delay now means we're saddled with a greater risk of climate change into the future, meaning that people, mainly after our generation, have to live with the consequences because we weren't prepared to act now. We don't have to solve all the world's problems in one go, but we have to make a start. We really can't wait.